So I recently got a GoPro, and this is some footage from the first day, which is May 12th, 2016. Basically, it's aimed to be helpful for me and you in getting better at rowing, and particularly to this, sculling. Now, I'm not the best sculler ever. I was alright as a junior, but I did a lot of things that injured me, so I never really got that good at it. In university, most of what I did was sweeping. I got very good at sweeping, but I took kind of patterns that I used for high-level sweeping and tried to convert them over to sculling, which really wasn't the most successful. So a lot of what I've been doing over the past, let's call it almost year and a half now, has been trying to redevelop sculling habits and doing so in a way that is sustainable. That doesn't give me injury and is fast. Now I've been able to do that in sweeping, but not in sculling. What you see right now is just a warm up. I'm just kind of cruising along. What I'm really working on is standing up a little bit. So at the catch, in a sweeping boat, I just push back, so I don't really try and lift the weight off the seat at all, because that works for sweeping, and sculling it doesn't. So recently what I've been doing is at the catch, I've been trying to generate a little bit of butt lift off the seat. If you're listening to the wheels in the video, the wheels in the seat as they roll along, it kind of gives you a time signature for drive time, which is what I'm really focusing on. At the start, in the first segment, you could hear the wheels move really quickly and then slow down, which a guy I used to scull with did fairly well, but that wasn't working so well. In this segment, you can see me just like have a hard time with it. The angle isn't great, but I'm kind of pissed off because I'm not generating the lift I want, and the handle moves really quick. Next will be some racing stuff, I think. Oh no, this will be things going well. No, it is a racing piece. The finger I kind of held up as a visual cue. Okay, so in this one I go up to about rate 30. This is kind of doing it the wrong way. So, in sweeping, if you just kind of like sit in it, you can just accelerate the hands as fast as you can and just hang on to it and then flex the blade and it'll push you along really nicely. Basically the past year sculling I've acted like that, and I've gone off the premise that the fastest blade through the water is the highest force generated on the blade. Trying to take it out of my back and not destroy my hips. But if you look at it, it looks a little frantic. You can see the arms bending a little early. That's because the shoulder needs to be in line with the arc of work. When you stand up a little bit, it basically allows you to keep your shoulder in line, right? So as you go off the catch, you generate a little bit of body lift, which raises your body up, which keeps everything in line. If you don't, the hands still travel in arc as do the shoulders, and then you have to pull down before the shoulders can go through. So if you look now at the second segment here, you can see everything looks a lot more linear. It's not great. You know, there's still a little quicker at the catch than I would like them to, which is kind of counterintuitive at this point in time. At this point in time, I don't know, it kind of needs to change. I'm just making sure that I do so that it doesn't injure me. If you look, the rate is pretty similar. Normally it would be, I guess, a little slower, but the recovery time is less. The drive time is longer, and generally speaking, sculling should take about, I don't know, 0.2 of a second longer in the drive than sweeping, which means you have to physically slow it down. Sweeping will go pretty quick. Like the sweep stroke, if you do it right, it'll just like snap through nice and quick. Whereas a sculling stroke, you kind of need to, if you see the hands overlapping, that prevents you from drawing the body through the same way sweeping does, because it puts the arms in a weird angle. So the way to get around that is to do like I was talking about, lifting the body up a little bit, because it overloads the early part, and then as you sit back down, if you can do it comfortably, the body will draw through in a way that deposits all the force that you've built up, makes a really nice little puddle, pushes the boat along, and negates the crossover problem that is introduced by sculling. At least that's my idea of why the sculling stroke takes longer in order to be like still a good stroke. Because prior I'd put everything in front of the pin, whereas now I oscillate between behind, like putting the feet behind the pin in order to generate a sense of, I guess, freedom, a bit of acceleration at the finish. Now I'm kind of building a bit back towards the middle, but the real focus here is on loading up. Not overly, but enough that you can take a little bit of weight off the seat. Just allow that force to carry you up just a bit, and then to carry it down. And by just a bit, I kind of mean in line with the amount of the rise that the handle goes through. So if you can raise your body up so that the arm can still stay in line with the handle, then you'll be in a good place. Yeah, this is me just kind of like going along again. This is good footage, I guess. It's decent. I'd go over it once or twice. Like what I've said isn't really the best, and it's gonna need a little bit of work, but it's a good place to start, I suppose. Cool. Okay, so some things that I may have not overlooked, but in the interests of keeping everything, I guess, condensed, didn't really go over. So I guess now that there's extra, and you know, you got the cold notes in the earlier part, so this will be extra if you're interested. If not, it's good to at least have that little break there. When you lift yourself off the seat and drive the weight up, after you reach the apex point where your arms are in line, the blade will start to the handles will start to drop, and then the blade will start to roll itself out. What you want to do is once you reach that apex point to start drawing the handle through. At that point in time, as you go down to the seat, the blade will go less deep, which will make it easier to pull in, and you'll be able to finish the stroke. I guess the risk that you don't want to do is you don't want to lay the body back to make that happen. Instead, you kind of like want to keep the torso at a very slight angle past. If you're thinking about the body as being straight up in the boat, you want to take that and maybe move it, I don't know, less than 10 degrees for sure, like a very small amount. One thing to move back off this is like the lower spine, the pelvis, and the hips really don't move much. Like the current trend in rowing Canada is to use the hips more. Just use them. Like allow pelvic rotation to move through that. It's kind of bogus. With sweeping, you can definitely drive things through. Like you can and really power off the glutes by connecting that and making the systematic chain short. But in sculling, it doesn't really work. What we want to do there in sculling is try and keep it not rigid, but in a similar place. You use it to connect. You don't use it to reach. Right. The biggest issue I had in sculling as a youth was to overreach with my body. And when I was told to get a large angle forward with my torso, like a nice quote-unquote strong angle, what it was actually doing was compromising any ability to generate any lift off the seat, which was actually intentional. It was a strengthening sort of thing designed to just dice the body and just allow the max amount of force you could apply to it, apply to the handles in the boat that wouldn't break tension and disrupt the quote-unquote kinetic chain. What we really want to do, and what enabled me to solve, at least today, the problem that I was having. If you in the second clip that I showed, if you go back to that later, I'm really frustrated there because I can't get any lift off, and I'm getting more and more reach in order to try and load the handles up more, and all I'm doing is tossing more and more water because I can't get it loaded up. Turns out it wasn't an issue of not having enough load by not having enough angle. Actual load goes inverse, so once you go past the pin, it actually gets lighter as you get on the catch. Hilarious, I know. But what I ended up doing was compressing less in the legs and not reaching as far. What that enabled me to do, I suppose, was just stay behind the knees, keep the body weight behind the knees, so that they can actually get lifted by the body. If the body weight is in front of the legs, the body basically tries to push itself up, and it can't. So it kind of half collapses, and then it has to drive the body back straight, which is, and by straight I mean not lifting anything, which isn't what we want. But too often juniors get taught to go for reach, and when you sacrifice, I guess, any sort of core stability in order to get more length, it ends up costing you your ability to actually generate force. Coach is okay, that looks great, but when they see that, what they're actually seeing, the time being taken, they see it as the time being taken being used efficiently, when really it's negative. You're spending the same amount of time, but the force you're outputting is less. And what's more important than that is it's causing more fatigue in the muscles, because you're using very small, awkward muscle groups to sustain the predominant amount of force, when really we want to use big muscle groups, connect that, and use, even more important than big muscle groups, we want to use very efficient, effective chains of muscles. And if you just overcompress, that'll hamper any ability to get stuff done well. Yeah, so that's kind of a bit of more depth on that. For me, I honestly try and almost sit up and down I'm in a windsurfing. I told Matt Shorthill, windsurfing on motorbike riding, you just kind of sit fairly straight up. In this case, you kind of let the upper torso go. The issue is the erg is a really bad teacher of that. The erg responds really well to sweeping tech. It doesn't respond well to scaling tech at all, so it's really hard to teach that. As the other anecdote I almost forgot was this tires you out a lot. It's hard on your legs. Rowing as a sport it will make you strong, but it's very hard to get appropriate cardio when you're rowing well. If you're sweeping well, you can get away with it. You can actually develop some pretty good cardio because the load on you is less. But for sculling, each stroke you take is about 100 watts. So think about your max power. Think about the max power you're putting out. Each sculling stroke is about 100 watts when you're going at full kilter. Probably a little bit less when you're not, but 100 watts higher than what you're outputting for sweeping. Generally, you build good muscle endurance by going at, I guess, sustainable loads of load or weight for longer periods of time. And rowing really doesn't do that. It's generally most effective when it's pretty heavy. So it's very easy to develop strength in rowing, but it's difficult to build any sort of endurance, which is why athletes from other sports that technically speaking, standing sports and that sort of thing, are also fairly heavy, but it's just different. It's not weight bearing, but it's still rowing. In fact, you're putting out, I would say, more force you're putting more force comprehensive. And with this sculling thing, sitting back down, if you do it wrong, will really hurt your spine. You want to make sure that as you come back in, you kind of draw off and just like lets the blade step out, and that your spine's coming down in a way that's kind of gentle. If you biff it, it'll hurt. It might not hurt while you're doing it, but it'll hurt after. But if you remember when we were doing the longer sessions, and I kind of had you guys doing it in a way that was very maintainable, that's the way you train cardio. But that doesn't really translate well in muscle memory over to skilling. It's not really great for that. So, with skilling, use it to really build strength, and you can build some endurance, but that and some cardio, but that itself is limited to how strong you are. So use that as at least some sort of thing, and either if you want to fortify your cardio, probably do something lighter, like biking and something like that, and go for a long distance. I think you guys know all the category groups, so I'll go over that at some point in time. That is actually everything I meant to say. So for me, I went like, oh man, I only went, I guess, 12K on that. Doing the other way, like the invitation sweep style, I could have gone almost 30K. But with this proper style, I guess, or this more effective, less rip breaking, proper race style, it's less draining in the immediate because you're not using anaerobic sprint muscles, you're actually using proper aerobic muscles because the timing's slower, so the legs don't fire as quick, so they don't use the type of fiber that exhausts as quick. But it will tucker you out. Like I got to, I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes, so 80 minutes, and I was done. I just wanted to go in, and that was about 14K. So, yeah, keep that in mind. I'm about 10, almost 11 minutes now in the extra bit, so I'll leave that there. Feedback helps. I know when the forum was still going really active, like, it wasn't really going active. It was just me. And I'll talk more about kind of that in a separate thing. This is way too long. Anyway, that's all for now. Cheers.